Good wishes to all of you. India's Ancient Past, Chapter 21, the Satavahana Phase audiobook. Political history. The most important of the native successors of the Mauryas in the north were the Shungas, followed by the Kanvas. In the Deccan and in central India, the Satavahana succeeded the Mauryas, although after a gap of about 100 years, the Satavahanas are considered to be the same as the Andhra Andhras mentioned in the Puranas. The Puranas speak only of Andhra rule and not of Shatavahana rule, and the name Andhra does not figure it in Shatavahana inscriptions. Pre-Shatavahana settlements are indicated by the finds of redware, blackened redware, and russet coated painted ware at many sites in the Deccan. Most of these are associated with the iron using megalithic builders who were stimulated to new activity by contacts with the material culture from the north. The use of the iron flexure, paddy transplantation, the growth of urbanism, writing, etc., created conditions for state formation under the Shatavahanas. According to some Puranas, the Andhras ruled altogether for 300 years, although this period is assigned to the rule of the Shatavahana dynasty. The earliest inscriptions of the Shatavahanas relate to the 1st century BC, when they defeated the Kanvas and established power in parts of central India. The early Shatavahana kings ruled not in Andhra but in North Maharashtra, where the earliest coins and inscriptions have been found, establishing power in the upper Godavari valley, which currently produces rich and diverse crops in Maharashtra. Gradually, the Shatavahanas extended their power over Karnataka and Andhra. Their greatest competitor for the Shakas, who had established power in the upper Deccan and western India. At one stage, the Shatavahanas were disposed of their dominance by the Shakas in Maharashtra and western India. The fortunes of the family were restored by Gautami Putra Shatakarni, Anno Domini 106 to 30, who called himself the only Brahmana. He defeated the Shakas and destroyed many Kshatriya rulers. He claimed to have ended the Shahartha lineage to which his adversary Nahapana belonged. This claim is true because over 8,000 silver coins of Nahapana found near Nasik bear the marks of having been restruck by the Shatavahana king. He also occupied Malwa and Kathiawar, which were controlled by the Shakas. It seems that the empire of Gautamiputra Shatakarni extended from Malwa in the north to Karnataka in the south, and he possibly also exercised general authority over Andhra. The successors of Gautamiputra ruled till Anno Domini 220. The coins and inscriptions of his immediate successors Vasistiputra Pulumai in Odhamni 130 to 54 have been found in Andhra and show that by the middle of the 2nd century this area had become a part of the Shatavahana kingdom. He set up his capital at Paithan or Pratishthan on the Godavari in Aurangabad district. The Shakas resumed their conflict with the Shatavahanas for the possession of the Konkan coast and Malwa. Rudraman I Rudradhaman I, Anno Domini 130 to 15, the Shaka ruler of Saurashtra, Kathiawar, defeated the Shatavahanas twice but did not destroy them because of shared matrimonial relations. Yajnashri Shatakarni, Anno Domini 165 to 94, was the last great king of the Shatavahana dynasty and recovered North Konkan and Malwa from the Shaka rulers. He was a patron of trade and navigation, and his coins appear not only in Andhra Pradesh but also in Maharashtra, MP, and Gujarat. His enthusiasm for navigation and overseas trade is demonstrated by the representation of a ship on his coins. The successors of Yajnashri Shatakarni were unable to retain the Shatavahana kingdom, which was destroyed by Anno Domini 220. Aspects of material culture. The material culture of the Deccan under the Shatavahanas was a fusion of local elements and northern ingredients. The megalithic builders of the Deccan were fairly well acquainted with the use of iron and agriculture. Although prior to 200 BC, we find some iron hoists. The numbers of such tools increased substantially in the first 2 or 3 centuries of the Christian era. We do not notice much change in the form of hoists from the megalithic to the Shatavahana phase, except that the hoists in the later were fully and properly socketed. Besides socketed hoists, sickles, spades, plowshares, axes, adges, razors, etc. relate to the Shatavahana layers of the excavated sites. Tanged and socketed arrowheads as well as daggers have also been discovered. At a site in Karimnagar district, even a blacksmith shop is found. The Shatavahanas may have exploited the iron ores of Karimnagar and Warangal. For these districts have signs of iron working that dates to the megalithic phase in the first millennium BC. Evidence of ancient gold workings has been found in the Kolar fields in the pre-Christian centuries and later. The Shatavahanas may have used gold as bullion, for they did not issue gold coins as did the Kushanas. By and large, they issued coins of lead, which is found in the Deccan. They also issued potin, copper, and bronze money. The Ikshvakas, who succeeded the Shatavahanas in the early 3rd century and dominate in eastern Deccan, also issued coins. Both the Shatavahanas and Ikshvakas seem to have exploited the mineral resources of the Deccan. The people of the Deccan were aware of the part of paddy transplantation, and in the first 2 centuries of the Christian era, the area between the Krishna and the Godavari, especially at the mouth of the two rivers, formed a great rice bowl. The people of the Deccan also produced cotton. In foreign accounts, Andhra is considered to be famous for its cotton products. Thus, a substantial part of the Deccan developed a very advanced rural economy. According to Pliny, the Andhra kingdom maintained an army of 1 lakh infantry, 2,000 cavalry, and 1,000 elephants. This presupposes a large rural population, and apparently the peasants produced enough to support this military strength. Through contacts with the north, the people of the Deccan learned the use of coins, bird bricks, ringwells, the art of writing, and the like. These components of material life became quite important in the Deccan. In Pedda Bankur, 200 BC to AD 200, in Karimnagar district, we find regular use of fire baked bricks and that of flat perforated roof tiles. Although roof tiles were found in Kushana constructions, they were more widely used in the Deccan and Western India under the Shatavahanas. All this must have contributed to the longevity of constructions. It is remarkable that as many as 22 brick wells belonging to the 2nd century have been discovered at Pedda Bankur. This naturally facilitated dense habitation. The site also shows covered underground drains to channel waste water into showcase pits. Towns developed in Maharashtra by the 1st century BC when we find several crafts. But in eastern Deccan, they developed a century later. Plenty informs us that the Andhra country in eastern Deccan included 30 valid towns. Besides numerous villages, several towns of the 2nd and 3rd centuries in this area are known from inscriptions and excavations. Increasing trade is indicated by numerous Roman and Shatavahana coins, which appeared about a century later in eastern Deccan in the Godavari Krishna area. Social organization. The Shatavahanas originally seem to have been a Deccan tribe. They, however, were so Brahmanized that they claimed to be Brahmanas. Their most famous king, Gautamiputra Shatakarni, described himself as a Brahmana and claimed to have established the fourfold Varna system which had fallen into disorder. He boasted that he had put an end to the intermixture between the people of different social orders. Such confusion was probably caused by the Shakas infiltration and by the superficial Brahmanization of the tribes living in the Deccan. The absorption of the Shakas in Brahmanical society as Kshatriyas was facilitated by intermarriage between the Shakas and the Shatavahanas. Similarly, the indigenous tribal people were increasingly acculturated by the Buddhist monks who were induced by land grants to settle in Western Deccan. It is suggested that traders too supported the Buddhist monks, for the earliest caves seem to have been located on the trade routes. The Shatavahanas were also the first rulers to make land grants to Brahmanas, although we find more instances of such grants being made to Buddhist monks. According to the Dharmashastras, it was the function of the Kshatriyas to rule, but the Shatavahana rulers called themselves Brahmanas. Gautamiputra boasted that he was the true Brahmana. As the Andhra are identified with the early Shatavahanas, they were probably a local tribe that was Brahmanized. The Orthodox Brahmins of the north viewed the Andhras as a mixed caste, which would appear to indicate that the Andhras were a tribal people brought within the fold of Brahmanical society as a mixed caste. Increasing craft and commerce during this period brought many merchants and artisans to the fore. Merchants took pride in naming themselves after the towns to which they belonged, and both artisans and merchants made generous donations to the Buddhist cause and set up small memorial tablets among the artisans. The Gandikas or perfumers are repeatedly mentioned as donors. At a later stage, the term Gandhika became so general as to connote all kinds of shopkeepers. The modern title Gandhi is derived from this ancient term. The most interesting detail about the Shatavahanas relates to their family structure. In the Aryan society of North India, the father enjoyed greater importance than the mother, and the North Indian princesses generally belonged to a patriarchal society. The Shatavahanas, however, show traces of a maternal social structure. It was customary for their king to be named after his mother. Such names as Gautamiputra and Vasishtiputra indicate indicate that in their society the mother enjoyed a great deal of importance. Sometimes an inscription is used both under the authority of the king and his mother. At present in peninsular India, the son's name includes a part of the father's name, and there is no place in it for the mother's, indicative of a patriarchal influence. Queens made important religious gifts in their own right, and some of them acted as regents. However, the Shatavahana ruling family was basically patriarchal because succession to the throne passed to the male member. Pattern of administration. The Shatavahana rulers strove for the loyal ideal set forth in the Dharma Shastras. The king was represented as the upholder of Dharma, and to him were assigned new divine attributes. The Shatavahana king is represented as possessing the qualities of mythical heroes such as Rama, Bhima, Keshava, and Arjuna, and is compared in prowess and luster to these legendary figures and to supernatural forces. This was evidently meant to attribute divinity to the Shatavahana king. The Shatavahanas retained some administrative structures of Ashokan times. Their district was called Ahara, as it was known in the time of Ashoka, and their officials were known as Amatyas and Mahamatras, as was the case in Mauryan times. However, their administrative divisions were also called Rashtra, and their high officials were styled Maharashtrikas. We notice certain military and feudal traits in the administration of the Shatavahanas. It is significant that the Senapati was appointed provincial governor, as the tribal people in the Deccan were not thoroughly Brahmanized and reconciled to the new rule. It was necessary to keep them under strong military control. The administration in the rural areas was placed in the hands of a Gaulmika, the head of a military regiment consisting of 9 chariots, 9 elephants, 25 horses, and 45 foot soldiers. The head of this regiment was posted in the countryside to maintain peace and order. The military character of Shatavahana rule is also evident from the common use of such terms as Kataka and Skandvara in their inscriptions. These were military camps and settled which served as administrative centers when the king was there. Thus, Koirkon played a key role in the Shatavahana administration. The Shatavahana started the practice of granting tax free villages to Brahmanas and Buddhist monks. The cultivated fields and villages granted to them were declared free from intrusion by royal policemen, soldiers, and other royal officers. These areas therefore became small independent islands within the Shatavahana kingdom. Possibly the Buddhist monks also preached peace and spelled out rules of good conduct to the people among whom they lived and taught them to respect political authority and social order. The Brahmanas, of course, helped enforce the rules of the Varna system which promoted social stability. The Shatavahana kingdom had three grades of feudatories. The highest grade was formed by the king, who was called Raja and had the right to strike coins. The second grade was formed by the Mahabojka, and the third grade was the Senapati. It seems that these feudatories and landed beneficiaries enjoyed some authority in their respective localities. Religion. The Shatavahana rulers were Brahmanas and they represented the march of Trimpat Brahmanism. From the very outset, kings and queens performed such Vedic sacrifices as Ashwadhama and Vajpaya, paying liberal sacrifices feast to the Brahmanas. They also worshipped a large number of Vaishnava gods such as Krishna and Vasudeva. However, the Shatavahana rulers promoted Buddhism by granting land to the monks. In their kingdom, the Mahayana form of Buddhism commanded a considerable following, especially among us the artisan class. Nagarjunakonda and Amravati in AP became important seats of Buddhist culture under the Shatavahanas, and more so under their successors, the Ikshvakus. Similarly, Buddhism flourished in the Nasik and Junnar areas in western Deccan in Maharashtra, where it seems to have been supported by traders. Architecture. In the Shatavahana phase, many chaityas, sacred shrines, and monasteries were cut out of solid rock in northwestern Deccan or Maharashtra with great skill and patience. In fact, the process had started about a century earlier in about 200 BC. The two common religious constructions were the Buddhist temple, which was called Chaitya, and monastery, which was called Vihara. The Chaitya was a large hall with a number of columns, and the Vihara consisted of a central hall entered by a doorway from a veranda in front. The most famous Chaitya is that of Karle in Western Deccan, about 40 meters long, 15 meters wide, and 15 meters high. It is a most impressive specimen of massive rock architecture. The viharas or monasteries were excavated near the chaityas for the residence of monks during the rainy season. At Nasik, there are three viharas since they carry the inscriptions of Nahapana and Gautamiputra. They belong to 1st 2nd centuries Anno Domini. Rock cut architecture is also found in Andhra in the Krishna Godavari region, but the region is really famous for independent Buddhist structures, mostly in the form of stupas. The most famous of them are those of Amravati and Nagarjunakonda. The stupa was a large round structure erected over some relic of the Buddha. The Amravati stupa was begun in around 200 BC but was completely reconstructed in the second half of the 2nd century Anno Domini. Its dome measured 53 meters across the base and it seems to have been 33 meters in height. The Amravati Stupa is full of sculptures that depict various scenes from the life of the Buddha. Nagarjunakonda prospered most in the 2nd 3rd centuries under the patronage of the Ikshvakus, the successors of the Shatavahanas. It possesses both Buddhist monuments and the earliest Brahmanical brick temples. Nearly 2 dozen monasteries can be counted here. Together with it, stupa and Mahachaityas Nagarjunakonda appears to have been the richest area in terms of structures in the early centuries of the Christian era. Language. The official language of the Shatavahana was Prakrit. All their inscriptions were composed in the language and written in the Brahmi script, as was the case in Ashokan times. Some Shatavahana kings may have composed Prakrit books. One Prakrit text called Gaha Sattasai or the Gata Saptasati is attributed to a Shatavahana king called Hala. It consisted of 700 verses, all written in Prakrit, but it seems to have been finally retouched much later, possibly after the 6th century. End of the chapter. Chronology. Before Christ, Vanam, Karimnagar, and Warangal districts Deccan show indications of iron working in the megalithic phase. 200. Chaityas and monasteries began to be built in northwestern Deccan. The Amravati stupa began to be built. 200 Anno Domini to 200. Regular use of fire baked bricks and flat perforated roof tiles in Karimnagar district. Pre-Christian centuries and later, gold workings in Kolar fields. First century, the earliest Shatavahana inscriptions, the development of towns in Maharashtra. Anno Domini 1 to 2nd century, Viharas at Nasik with inscriptions of Nahapana and Gautami Putra Shatakarni, paddy transplantations in the Deccan. Paddy transplantations in the Deccan. 106 to 30, date of Gautami Putra Shatakarni. 130 to 50, date of Rudradaman Man. 130 to 54, date of Vasishti Putra Pulumai. 165 to 94, date of Yajnashri Shatakarni, the last great king of the Shatavahana dynasty. 2nd century, 22 brick wells in Peddabankur in Karimnagar district, reconstruction of Amravati Stupa. 2 to 3 century, 2 to this 3rd century, coins are known from inscriptions and excavations. Nagarjunakonda prospered most under the Ikshvakas, the successors of the Shatavahanas. 220, end of the Shatavahana kingdom. 3rd century, increasing trade is indicated by numerous Roman and Shatavahana coins in the Deccan. Post 6th century, Prakrita Gata Satasai or Gaha Saptasai, Gata Saptasati finalized. Thank you.